Welcome to BlackUSA.news morning show. I'm your host, William Honolulu Jr. Join us as we explore the news and opinions that impact our community. We break down how the major stories have a very personal, local, and racial impact. No topic is off limits, but even if the conversation gets rough, we're always going to keep it real.
Greetings and salutations, all my friends out there in internet land. I am William Honolulu Jr., and I have the privilege and honor of serving as the host of the BlackUSA.news morning show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You know what today is. Do you know what today is? Today is Titillating Tuesday. It's Titillating Tuesday. It is an opportunity for me to hang out with some of my favorite peeps. The incredible Stacey Dennis and the amazing Dr. Ye Wong. But more than anything else, honestly, it gives me an opportunity to say titillating as much as I want. But today, while it's fun to talk about and joke around with, but today we got to cover some really heavy stuff. Because we're going to pivot from what we were going to talk about originally. We had a lot of topics in the air, one of them being how to respond to or how to enjoy your sex life after trauma or traumatic events. But something happened. I don't know if you all have heard, but the Supreme Court actually overturned Roe versus Wade. And the draft, and I haven't had a chance to read the entire opinion, but the opinion looks a lot like the draft that came before it. And so now we're in a situation where not only do we have to, like the show, not only do we have to deal with the fact that we can't deal with the issue of trauma and your sex life because the system has decided to take away rights. So now we have to deal with that. Good morning, Pranithya. Art. Okay. Art comes all the way from Oakland, California. I appreciate him. So we got to talk about that today. And we have, of course, I got my co-host coming today, and you know who that is. Y'all know Stacey Dennis, the Five Pearls herself, and the chief titillating officer of the morning show. Titillating. She keeps it popping, make sure that we stay engaged and know what's going on. And she makes it interesting. And she's a great friend. I know we talk a lot and joke a lot, but I really do want to make sure you all understand Stacey is a great friend and a professional. I'm just lucky enough to be in her world and know that she titillated too. Come on to the stage, to the table, Stacey Dennis. Hey, CTA.
Good morning. Hey, everybody. Good morning.
Okay. I like your shirt. All animated up this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I see.
Yeah.
And the earrings
a little bit of Sokugeki. So a little bit of Soma up in here, some food boys, and then I got my Hannah Fuda earrings. Got my Demon Slayer earrings on. What?
Oh, you in these streets today? Oh, you in the streets? So you had to jump back and get some anime support since we gonna talk about how they chopping up your rights.
Let me go to a Comic-Con. Y'all just pretend you don't know me because I'm gonna be like, what? Yeah, all my money. I'm not even lying. I think I have more anime streaming services than anything else. Not even lying.
I ain't even mad at you. All right, so I have to keep reminding our viewers, or at least I feel I should, that I do not have a uterus. So I will be bringing a rather limited perspective to this conversation. And so I just want to make sure that because I think that's really important to disclose, because like some people act like they do. And like you look at them and like, oh, son, you've been an old white man since you were born. Don't do that. But they talk like they have one themselves. I just want to put that out there, my disclaimer that I don't have one, so my conversation may be biased or limited.
But what you do have is a JD. What you do have is the legislative background that we are going to be touching on and talking about today. So that is invaluable because I do not. I have an MPH.
Okay, all right. So together,
I have a biology degree.
Together, we're going to try to make some sense of this crap.
Right.
But the great part about it is that we do not have to do this alone. We do not. The incomparable Dr. Ye Wong is with us today. How you doing?
Happy Tuesday. Happy Titillating Tuesday.
Happy Titillating Tuesday to you. It's cool. Titillating.
Thank you, Dr. Hannah Blue, for acknowledging that you do not have a uterus. I wish more men would do that.
No problem at all. So, like we did at our last show, I wanna just set it off, but letting people know that some of this conversation may be difficult. And for not just those of us with uteruses, but for all of us, this is personal. This literally has changed. This decision for me. I was born in 1973. So all of my life, this has been law. I wake up Friday morning, and what I have known to be a fundamental right, that is the basis of a lot of other rights. And we're going to talk about that because Clarence Thomas is on that shit again. But this fundamental right that is anchored, and the anchor point of it is the basis of a lot of other rights: the right to contraception, the right for not having the type of sex you have criminalized. And by the way, one that they didn't happen to mention in the opinion, the right to interracial marriage is contained in that same amendment. That's kind of weird that was the one when he was running down the list. Mm-hmm. That was really interesting how that one, he just missed that. But he was busy probably. I understand shit like that happen. When you're working with your wife to overthrow the government, then you can't focus on all of it. You see what I'm saying? Scares me. But that for me is a whole thing. And I think that it is important for us not just to understand the implication of what happened, but also how we got here, not just legislatively, but also politically. Because over the last 50 years, there has been a concentrated, targeted effort to undo all of this shit. It has been part of the American experience, and deliberately going through the courts, installing Republicans. And one of the challenges, and again, this will touch on some morality pieces, but one of the challenges that I have is why don't we turn around and use the same tools that they're using? Because they damn sure work. Damn sure work. We are sitting here playing hey, I tell my friends, when you're a pugilist fighting the dude, it's no, the rules say you have to fight like this, and somebody hits you over the head with a brick. Okay, if you keep getting up, putting your dukes up, and you keep getting hit in the head with a brick, at a certain point, I'm less mad at the person hitting you with a brick. And again, the person hitting you with the brick is wrong and needs to be punished. Right. But at a certain point for us, why do we keep acting like they're gonna follow the fucking rules? So I wanted to make sure that as we start talking about this, because it's easy to get lost into Roe, the horrid and the disrespect of the decision, it is really easy to stop there. But I want to make sure that we understand that if we focus only on that, we miss how they got us here. And when we fight heavy again to get it turned over, they'll be doing the same fucking thing again because we haven't stopped. We haven't taken the bricks away.
Exactly.
Sorry. Okay. All right. So that's where I wanted to start.
That's going to lead to a whole conversation as eventually, people are going to start voting for people who only do this. And I was like, oh, so you don't know how to pick up a brick or something heavier than a brick? Okay, then I'm going to just vote for somebody because I can't. So we're going to, all of that needs to be discussed. And honestly, we could do a whole month of conversations on this because it touches on not only the legislation, but in society. You know what I mean? There was a whole conversation about how, like you said, how we got here. And if you look on social media and the conversations women are having, women are enraged, but certain segment of these women are like, but we told you. And y'all did this. And why I'm not doing anything. Because for you, it's an outrage. For me, it's Tuesday. And I'm not, you handle this. Y'all did this. The y'all who put a certain person in office, the overwhelming majority of y'all who put a certain person in office, there were the large segment of y'all who decided to stay home because you couldn't feel the burn. You did this. So we sitting out, we good. It's Tuesday for us. Yes, it sucks, but it has always sucked. So Y'all let me know when y'all handle this.
And
It's a whole
the
conversation.
even more frustrating things, Stacey, to piggyback on what you were saying, is Black women. Why did everybody expect us to put on a cape and come and save them and pick up the broom and the mop and sweep up and clean up their messes? We're tired. We got 400 years of tiredness. 400 years of tiredness. And like you said, it wasn't like no one was warned. I was watching CBS this morning, and Gayle King was talking to former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and she said something, and I was like, you know what? Yes. And I actually posted that quote. She said, if you're surprised, it's because you haven't been paying attention. If you're surprised, it's because you haven't been paying attention. Because for years, everyone, I know I've been saying it, I didn't really start paying attention until I was 20. And now I'm like years old. And I'm like, I've been saying this for the longest. When President George Bush the Elder, when he nominated to the Supreme Court Antonin Scalia, and they asked him, you know, when they were doing the vetting process, they asked him about Roe v. Wade. He made a statement that made me literally sit up in my seat. He said, it is not about whether abortion is right or wrong. It is about the stripping away of the rights of a certain people. His words, a certain people. He didn't say women. He said a certain people. Now, fast forward years later, before he died, he went on this Back to the Constitution tour, where he was going to predominantly white institutions and was telling the young kids of rich white people that America needs to go back to the days when the Constitution was written. What did those days look like?
What?
Where only wealthy white male property and landowners had rights. Women, white women, were just a step above dogs, in my opinion. And Black people, we were right at the level with cattle.
Literally.
Yeah. At the level of cattle. He went on a tour, a Back to the Constitution tour, and this is the message that he was preaching before he died. So they have been making it quite clear for over 30 years that I've been paying attention, that where they want this country to go back to. So when they were talking about make America great again, you would almost have thought that he was promising, whereas one president during the Depression said a chicken in every pot, you would have thought they were being promised a slave in every kitchen.
I'm sorry, that's what they were being promised, except that slavery now looks like dollars instead of beatings.
Exactly.
Because of an evaluation, a negative evaluation, that shit hurts about as much as a lash to the back. Because that may fuck up your career for a long time. One of the last contracts I left was because somebody alluded to the fact that there was something funny about the money I was handling. We cut all of that clear, and I was like, the fact that you would make this allegation, I can't work with you anymore. And again, he knew that it wasn't, but the fact that he made it was like, no, we will stop everything and resolve this, because I recognize as a Black man in business, any allegation of those types of things are going to destroy me. But I think what you've been saying is that they have the privilege of time so that they can move these messages. Like me, I have to fight this type of stuff. So I have to fight all the time. I have to struggle. I have to try to find resources. So I don't have the type to go and proselytize to the young people at Morgan's campus and telling them how we need to get together. I would do that, but I got to spend too much time trying to build my business and survive. And I think that's part of it. They keep us so busy on survival that we don't even see them. To your point, we see them bringing the bricks to the fight. And then we're like, and everybody on their side is like, oh, they're going to fight honorably. It's like they brought bricks. And they're like, no, like Susan Collins and Joe Manchin. What? They wouldn't vote for it? I sat there and talked to them. I mean, they had a U-Haul full of bricks, but I was like, they're probably just trying to build a house.
There's some, and it's not willful ignorance. They knew what was going to happen. They knew what was going to happen.
Absolutely.
But they want to also keep their nice. What is the senator
Plausible
take
deniability.
now? 174,000 a year for life.
That's not it, babe.
Is it higher
That's
now?
not even what they after. That's not even what they
No,
after.
no,
The book
but
deals after you finish.
It's the money and the power.
Yes,
it is what
the
they're
money.
after. It is the money and the
No,
power
I'm saying not,
that comes along
I
with it. It is
apologize.
the influence.
I was saying not the 174. Sorry. I was just saying not the
But I'm just
174
saying-
because they make millions. Yeah.
I'm just saying, you work part-time during the year and you clear 174,000 and you don't really have to spend it. It's a good day. But it's the money and the power that they are after. And they knew it. This isn't their first freaking rodeo. You grew up in the same country I did. You cannot be that willfully ignorant. You knew what was going to happen. You're just trying to float above it and convince enough idiots, enough registered voters to keep voting for you. So that you could continue to do that. You knew what was going to happen. Why sit there and ask these Supreme Court justices about their stance on abortion? Who hasn't lied during an interview? You lie. And they all did.
Not just that, they published work beforehand. Like they have the Federalist Society literally selected these people. The reporting and evidence was out there because of their stance on abortion. And abortion and the Second Amendment, the whole right to bear arms, blah, blah, blah. That's why they were selected. That's why also, let's not forget that this exists because Mitch McConnell, because Merrick Garland was not on the court, he took that seat away from President Obama. That could have even changed the outcome of the election with Trump. And then Trump got his first Supreme Court pick. I'll give him that one. That was absolutely Kavanaugh. That was a shit show to begin with. Like that was just ridiculous the whole time. And then Amy Coney Barrett, that was so incredibly fucking disrespectful. So let's be, and also remember that these people who made this decision, they represent a minority of Americans.
Exactly.
The Republicans actually represent in the Senate. The Republicans actually represent a smaller number of Americans, but they have equal power. And that's part of the game. They bring bricks to the fucking fight. That's why they can win from the minority.
Okay. I want us to, because I'm getting hot. I want us to step back and make sure that we give the audience a timeline, because for a large segment of our audience, you think that legislating of women's bodies is only for the last 50 years with Roe v. Wade, and it is actually not. Every culture has a history of women trying to dictate when they become mothers, in various ways. Even, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Ye, Genesis, says men needs to, they describe a pull-out method for men.
With Onan, he pulled out. And Christians, and we need to read. We just need.
I'm not a Christian, so I can't tell you what book in Genesis. Really I mean, what specific thing in the Bible, but it does say a pull-out method.
With Onan, he withdrew himself and spilled it on the ground. That's an exact quote. And then it says God killed him. And in the church, they misinterpret that and use that as a justification of anti-birth control. But God did not kill Onan because he withdrew and spilt it. In order for him to know that the withdrawal method was effective for preventing pregnancy, people had been doing it all along. Hello. It didn't just come and they're like, okay, let me just do it. No, people have been doing it all along. But God did not kill him because God was against birth control. God killed him because he broke the law. He refused to obey the law and give seed to his dead brother. The Bible clearly says that he knew that if the child was conceived, that the child would not be considered his, but his dead elder brother. Because according to Jewish law, if the firstborn son gets married and dies before he can have children, the next brother in line is supposed to marry his wife and conceive children, but the children would not be considered the children of the second brother. They would be considered the children of the elder brother. And he knew this. And so the Bible says he withdrew, he spilled it on the ground, and then God killed him. Not because God is against birth control, but because he broke the law.
Well, thank you very much for the clarification.
Yes.
And I bring it up because it is, it dictates a history, a written history of a type of birth control. I just want to put out there, a large swath of us are not Christian.
Exactly.
All right.
So, and you know what? A large swath of Christians ain't Christians, because when
the definition
of the word, a large swath of Christians are not Christian, because the word Christian means Christ-like. It's only found one time in the Bible, in the book of Acts, and even then it was used as an insult. The apostles and the writers, they always referred to themselves as believers and sometimes saints. But most Christians are not Christ-like. So therefore, you're not a Christian. Christ wouldn't be blowing up abortion clinics. Christ would not be murdering doctors. Christ would not be doing all these things. And
Christ was a Jew.
And Christ was a Jew. So you can't say you're a Christian and hate Jews.
Christ fed people and took care of them after they were born.
After they were born.
Well, excellent points. But I also bring that up because a lot, using that religious tone to create policy is an issue for me because I'm not Christian. So you can't. I don't recognize you're using your Bible to create policy for me because. So and that goes for a large portion of people.
And the same people who want to use the Bible to create laws to impose on others are the same ones who will stand against Muslims and say they're against Sharia law and people using Islam to standards to impose on others.
Exactly.
We can't create the Christian version of Sharia law and say we're anti-Sharia law, but then we turn around and do the same thing under the banner of Christ.
Exactly. And
that's exactly what they do all the damn time.
Well, that's exactly what they're doing. Yeah,
they do that that literally is the bricks that they bring to the party. That is the brick every time. They project everything. Like they tried to co-opt the Me Too movement. Actually, think about this. When they talked about the mask, one of the phrases they used was "my body, my choice."
Yep.
Somehow that
I'm gonna just let that hang in the air. I'm gonna just let that hang in the air. I remember
seeing that on a news clip with this lady. And I was like, yo, with a picture of a mask, and it was like, oh, by the way, I do remember why this stuck out to me the most. It was in fucking Texas.
Don't you just love Texas? Actually, I do love Texas. Your food is great. However, your politics they suck. Please go Beto over
a little bit of Florida, and that's what happened. They caught some Florida, and that shit just spread all over. Except there's some immunity in Austin. There's a little bit of immunity in Austin, but I'm sorry. Go finish about the timeline. This shit it's emotional. Like it affects everything.
It affects everything. So we have that reference in the Bible where there was contraceptive made. I want to move it into this country. Throughout history, they've suggested. The greatest minds have suggested essential oils to stop the sperm because all they knew was that man entered woman's body, woman got pregnant. They don't know nothing about her side until like the mid 1800s where they realized there's an egg in there. Oh, there's an egg in there, right? So it's not until late that they even recognize women's part in it. We're just not the oven. We have a vital part in it. And I need your JD, the Comstock Act. I want to read this correctly. Okay. The Comstock Act passed in this country prevented perverted things in the media. So that included not only porn, but also information about contraception. And the Comstock Act was 1893. Where are you at, Big Brain?
It was well before any of us was around. So it's been
1873. 1873 was the Comstock Act. I just had to look it up to make sure I'm right. And it a federal law designed to prevent the distribution of immoral material and to censor communication about birth control.
Yes.
It was meant to censor communication about birth control. And by this time, diaphragms and sponges were used by women in an effort to control the male sperm access to the egg. Okay? So the controlling of women's bodies is not just the last 50 years. It's been in this country. Then came the pill. 1960s, the FDA finally approved a pill, but even that had issues because, you know, the religious morality was like, you can't stop what God has created. You know, you can't, and wait a minute, hold on. I want to make sure I got this right as well. In order for a woman to get the pill or birth control, it took the permission of 3 doctors. The permission of 3 doctors for a legal abortion. And I think at the time it was only valid in 3 states. 3 male doctors had to agree to give you an abortion.
3 male doctors.
Hear what I said. 3 male doctors had to give you permission to get an abortion. Fuck out of here. I just get mad when I read stuff.
And then we also have to consider the laws didn't just stop there. People think that a lot of people think it was just Roe v. Wade with women and women's bodies. But before Roe v. Wade, there was Griswold versus Connecticut. And people don't talk about that. Griswold versus Connecticut was filed by a married couple. Griswold versus Connecticut came before Roe v. Wade. Griswold versus Connecticut was a married white couple suing the government, telling them, you can't force me to keep having kids, my wife and I, to continue having kids that I can't afford to take care of. And so when Griswold versus Connecticut won, it was followed afterwards like, you know what? Well, not only can you not tell married couples how many kids they can have, you can't tell me how many kids I can have, because I'm the one, as the woman, I'm the one that's bringing these little jokers into the world. So I should have a say. So when you overturn Roe v. Wade, that opens up the door. And I tell people it sets precedents. Once precedence is set, it can always be referred back to. So now, overturning Roe v. Wade, you can overturn Griswold versus Connecticut. Clarence Thomas was talking about overturning contraceptive. He was also talking about overturning Brown. I think it was Brown versus Board of Education.
No, he was talking about Oberfeld, about contraceptive, also about same-sex relationships and same-sex marriages. So those are the 3 that he specifically articulated that he thought they should also be reconsidered. But I really want to, you mentioned precedent. I'm sorry, say it again.
No, I was saying, which one of them was talking about the educational piece?
It was another senator.
It was another senator. Okay.
Yeah, that was no, not Clarence, not out of that. Now, Cornyn has been talking about destroying the Board of Education, and he is straight racist and is absolutely comfortable with that. But what I want to jump onto something you said just now, and I want to make sure that this is clear. One of the reasons that we lose is that we believe what they say. You mentioned precedent, and precedent is supposed to establish a way of doing things, and we don't deviate from it. But let's be clear, they are using bricks. Roe v. Wade was precedent, settled precedent that everybody who sat before them said it is settled law. It is settled law. And as soon as you get the number of votes, that now all of a sudden precedent doesn't matter. This Bama went back and said, he used the same argument that they used to undo like slavery. Like it was wrong when we did it, or Plessy versus Ferguson. It was wrong when he did it, and it has been wrong the whole time. Telling women that the state, that he said in this decision, that telling women that the state can control their bodies is exactly what should happen. And that has been the way it has been from the framers' articulation. That is, so I want to make sure that we don't, because that's part of the larger thing I was talking about. We can't get concerned about winning, getting Roe reinstated or things like that, because they fight the other way. They fight, okay, we can wait 50 years. We'll let you win this one. Go ahead, you got this. 50 years later, and once we kill you in 50 years, think about how many bricks we done been able to save. We got enough bricks to hit you over the head and build a couple houses.
Mm. Right. So thank you for saying that. My mind is all over the place with all of these decisions, because what struck me when she said Griswold versus Connecticut, the Chief Justice at the time said people had a fundamental right to privacy. What happened to that part? I mean, I'm honestly asking, William, what happened to the right to privacy?
So what has happened to the right to privacy is the right to privacy cannot exist as you move toward fascism. And I want to make sure that you all understand what is happening now. What is happening is that power is being concentrated through corporations and politics to put it in it's in the hands of a very small number of people, and they are losing accountability to the rest of us. That is what's happening. So we cannot have privacy. They can always afford privacy. They can get private servers, encrypted apps, and all of these types of things. But this is one of the other parts of this. And I think this is why they win so often, because they have no problem switching from Muay Thai to Jiu-Jitsu to boxing to wrestling. And we're sitting there like, stop, you no, this is what the rules say. It has to be like this. They're like, that's exactly what we wrote down, but we're not going to follow that.
Yeah, because it was written, because we wrote it so you could follow it, not so we could follow it.
And that's it.
You could follow
it. So this is what is dangerous, and what everyone was saying about the way that the Supreme Court was the last three justices were selected. Let's also be clear: the last three justices that were selected were all rated unqualified from the National Bar Association.
Completely.
Literally, watch this. Watch this. 1,500 law professors signed on a letter that Brett Kavanaugh should not be a justice, that he would tarnish the name and the reputation, sully the Supreme Court. And wow, what the fuck happened? The Supreme Court is sullied. Didn't see that happen. And then you have some of these Bamas who sit there and try to act surprised. So one of the things that and again, talking about using their tactics, part of the challenge is that we are trying to follow the rules with a 5-year-old. We are trying to no, the rules say you have to move here. No, but that makes you in front of me. No. I don't want to play. And we have seen that they are willing to kill each other.
Yep.
They are willing. Literally, in the last year, the president of the United States had sent a hit squad out for all of the elected members of Congress and the vice president who didn't agree with him. That fucking happened. Yep. So when I say that this is not just important, this isn't even the beginning of the removal of rights. This has been happening. And the interesting part is that, be clear, we cannot take what they say at face value, because guess what conservatives are all about? Smaller government, less government restrictions in your personal life, telling the government to stay out, All of a sudden, government can, at the state level, each little government has to decide now. At the government now is telling us what to do, and taking rights away. So Roe is important, but Roe, we didn't just get here. Roe is also part of a coordinated effort to get us back to the time of the Constitution. I gotta be honest, I don't do well in soil. I tried it; it don't work for me.
And my mouth is too reckless. I'm slaying everybody.
Shawty, you can't.
Shout
honestly,
out, Jim Brown.
Stace, we wouldn't last 30, 40 minutes as slaves. But because I'm like, after you want me to do what? Go ahead, y'all. Go ahead, y'all. You realize I'm a grown ass man, bro.
And
now, whip on me. I may change my mind, but I don't think so at this point in my life. I'm almost 50. I do what I want now.
I have been saying this for years, and it was falling on deaf ears, because for some reason people were like, oh, that could never happen now. It could never happen. Like, yes, it could. I said, number one, they don't have to send ships to West Africa to haul us over here. We're already here. They have militarized so many police forces in this country. Little towns, like little areas like Ferguson and all of that. Look at the military might that they were met with. a few years ago. In DC, look at the military might that they were met with. Well, those who were unarmed.
Oh, okay.
The unarmed
Okay.
unarmed Black and brown protesters. I'm like, they don't have to spend billions to haul us over here. We're already here. FEMA has been building camps for several years with barbed wire fences. Now, if these are supposed to be camps to help house people in times of trouble, why do they have barbed wire fences?
Oh, no, that's because we're trying to keep the bad people out. It's to protect you. Yeah, to protect you. Yeah, that's it. And again, we can't listen to what they say. You're absolutely right. We can't listen to what they say. They're lying. They are always lying, and we know they're lying.
So it would be so much easier. And they have, like I said, they have been saying for years, from people making off the cuff comments during the 2020 campaign, that, you know, Black people were better off in slavery. Black families were more together and united during slavery. What? Slavery was a good thing for Black people. Well, slavery was so great. How about you try it for 400 years and we'll see how you like it. Woo! If it was so great. But these little off the cuff comments. And I want to remind everyone, the book will be extremely difficult to purchase now. I checked the price this morning. For the most part, it's unavailable. And those who are selling it, the lowest price I saw for this one book was $2,700. It's called The Birth Dearth. The Birth Dearth. And it was written by a Jewish white man, which I was surprised to find out that he's Jewish, considering everything that they experienced as a people with Hitler and the Holocaust. I was very surprised that this writer was Jewish. And shout out to all my Jewish patients and everything. I love you all. But in his book, and one of our long-term advocates for civil rights, Dr. Jane Elliott, she talks about this book a lot. In fact, the interview that she had done has been circulating this past week on Instagram, where she mentions this book. But in the book, they talk about the birth crisis. And this was written years ago, but he was predicting that by around 2030, 2040, and we are approaching that time, that America would be predominantly Black and brown, and that Caucasians or whites would lose their dominant or majority status. He proposed 3 solutions, 2 of which would not work because they would have to include minorities. One of those was paying people to give birth, but they didn't want to pay Black people to give birth. So the number one suggestion that he had was dealing with abortion. And in the book, at that time, he stated that 60% of abortions were committed by white women. So he proposed that if you could prevent that 60% from being aborted by white women, that it would maintain the white majority. And here we are. Which is why you saw another with the Trump rally, or he's standing there. I can't remember the white woman's name, but she was thanking him for saving white lives.
Now, to be fair, she did come back later and said, "Oh, that was a misstep. He meant right. No. She meant right to life."
No, but she said what she said, and she said it. She said it from her chest.
Absolutely, I agree with you. But here's the thing. Even if she didn't mean it, let's pay attention to the fact that the crowd clapped.
Yes, thunderously.
So even if it was a misstatement on her part, and she let's say I do not believe this, but let's say we Susan Collins this and say, well, maybe she didn't mean it, maybe it was a slip of the tongue. We still have to worry about the guy who was standing right next to her who clapped too, and the entire audience who was down for that, even if it was a mistake. I don't believe it was, but they were down for it. That is what I'm talking about. They're bringing bricks to this joint. And they're not even trying to hide them. They're not wrapping them up, making them look like presents. They just got a whole pallet of them, like, because we're going to hit you when we know that you're just going to complain and then bring your fist back up. It's so fucking annoying.
And we have to, and former Secretary Clinton was saying this again, and I've been saying it for years. We have to vote. Like Stacey was saying earlier in the broadcast, he got in office because white women showed up, and they would rather have had a man who boasted about being a sexual predator, grabbing women by the private parts and getting away with it because he's white and rich, over emails. When George Bush administration, the younger, did the same thing with the emails. That administration did the same thing with the emails. But this is what you would prefer. And now here we are, because, and so many Black people, I tell them, they say, oh, my vote doesn't count. My vote doesn't count. Well, if our votes didn't count, they wouldn't go so far out of the way to prevent us from voting. They wouldn't be doing all the redlining and redistricting. They wouldn't be trying to pass all of these laws, knowing that your 99-year-old grandmama ain't got no, probably ain't got no birth certificate, probably doesn't have a driver's license or ID. She probably wasn't even driving, and they probably was still using horse and buggies or trolley cars at that time. But they wouldn't be going so far to create laws to prevent us from voting.
Exactly.
Trying to strike down early voting, trying to get rid of voting by mail, trying to close the polls earlier, trying to shut down the number of voting places, trying to eliminate people being brought to the polls. If our vote didn't matter, it matters. And if these past 8 years don't show you anything, it should show you that we matter. Black lives matter, but Black votes matter even more, because they know what we do, and they've already infiltrated all of our protests and switched it and created their narrative out of it. They know they do something, we get upset, we cry and complain, and we march and we yell and we scream, and then we go home and sit down and wait for the next incident to pick up and reuse our signs all over again. But they've infiltrated that in the sense that they come into the protest pretending that they're allies. How many videos did we see circulating online of Caucasian people breaking windows and then spray painting BLM on the building? And you seeing Black people saying, don't do that, they're going to think that we did it. And the white women looking at them like, that's what we want.
Actually, the funny part, and I saw one of those videos, and Stacey, I'm gonna give it back to you right after this. But I saw one of the videos with these white women who were in the neighborhood. And here's the thing that bothered me more about the video, like the ones where they're doing it to set people up. Those are the ones I expect that. The one that bothered me, and I think this is one of the things that happens, is that these white women, these allies, they still only have a stereotypical view of what our world looks like. So what they see is that we allegedly we tag. That's how we express our rage and creativity. We break stuff. So when they come to help us, they come to break stuff too. It's like that movie Soul Man. He took this chemical. The white kid couldn't get into law school, so he took a chemical and got a scholarship, and made his skin brown, and he got a scholarship. And they invited him to the Black Law Students Association meeting. And so as a white kid, he thought this was the rat. He had heard about him from the 60s and whatever. So he showed up to the BOSA meeting dressed like a Black Panther, because in his mind, he's still a white kid, and that is his idea of what Black activists do. So you got to show up looking like Huey Newton if you want to be taken seriously. And I think this is also happening in what allyship looks like from men's perspective into these types of conversations. It is,
well, at this point, that's where I wanted to lead us, because I don't want us to get out of. It's been, of course, in this subject we have to discuss the political part, but I don't want us to get out of the vein of what we can do about women's health and protecting Black women's health specifically in this setting right now. So I want us to be able to float some ideas and get some ideas back from our viewers about how we can protect Black women's rights. And of course it's women's rights, but right now I'm talking about Black women's rights, because our maternal mothers die at a higher rate in childbirth and we have issues with that. And what does that look like? What does making changes and advocating for changes to that look like? I have a few sorors who are doulas and obstetricians, and we discuss it all the time about increasing the advocacy and believing Black women when they have issues during childbirth. For women who want family planning, who do not want to have a baby right now. You still want to have sex, but you don't want to have a baby, and that's okay. I've had some knockdown drag out fights since Friday with men, surprisingly, about, well, women really should, you can stop right there. Stop that. Because women don't get pregnant on their own.
Exactly.
The fact that you started that sentence like that means you and I have issues now, because you totally took you out of it. When I was getting my master's in public health, in one of my papers, I floated the idea of a male vasectomy. And when I tell you, the class and the professor clutched their collective pearls with the idea. And I was like, why? I said, name all of the birth control options for men. I'll wait. No, name them for women. And the list was huge. I said, you would rather flood a 12-year-old girl's body with hormones that she was not meant to have, rather than tell Timmy to, drop, and then he can get them back when he's 18, or is financially responsible. And when I tell you the shock and awe and the gasp in the room, and I was like, why? You would rather flood this girl's body or subject her to an abortion rather than control the one thing that can get her pregnant. It's reversible.
And the other part,
exactly. And it's an outpatient procedure.
It's an outpatient procedure.
And in a couple of days, you'll be back in the saddle again. You'll still be shooting bullets. They'll just be blanks. But you still have all the pleasure. You'll still be able to release your semen, have an orgasm, all of that, and it's reversible.
And it's a mindset in this country that we cannot touch the male genitalia. The hell I can't. Well, if I could have gotten my son fixed like I did the dog.
It's for their pleasure. Only if it's for their pleasure.
No, if I could have, everything in this house is spayed with the exception of me. And if I could have got my son, what? I was like, we don't discuss that. We don't discuss that.
And I thank God for my father taught my brothers. And I remember it's so clear. He told them, he said, my mother said, you are the only one responsible for that thing between your legs called a penis. My father taught my brothers that a woman's egg it comes every 28 days, whether she wants it to or not. She cannot control that. And he said, you, on the other hand, can control where you release your sperm. He said, if you don't want to be a father, then use condoms or get a vasectomy. If you're having unprotected sex, it's because you want to be a daddy. Period.
Exactly.
And take care of your responsibility. And he taught them if she's good enough to screw, she should be good enough to marry.
Well, right. However, I wouldn't have married my son's father, but you're right. I wouldn't have done that. But you're right. You know what I mean? And so we need to talk about these next steps as far as, what kind of legislation in these, we need to put in place. Do we put in place male vasectomies?
I'm all for it. I think
for every woman,
any man who has more than 2 children should have a vasectomy.
And for every woman who has an unwanted pregnancy and she's prevented by her state from getting an abortion, make the father the automatic custodial parent.
And he should have a vasectomy. And he should have a mandatory vasectomy.
Because,
you cut the problem off where it begins.
Exactly. And see those rules change as soon as all these guys come up with all these babies and you're made the automatic custodial parent. What?
Well,
you know how much these kids are? And based on the mother's income, you can have that child support.
Now, I want to say that in the couple of days following the overturn of Roe v. Wade, Google put out information that vasectomy became really high on the search bar. A lot of men were looking into vasectomies, or people, period, began to look into vasectomies.
So the reality is that those are incredible policies. But one of the challenges you're going to run into is the penis
Most
challenge.
Lawmakers are men.
Yeah, the penis is sacred. In our society, the penis is sacred. And so, but one of the things that we can do, kind of the legislation that may be helpful, and again, I like the larger things that you all are talking about, because if you make vasectomies part of the conversation, it forces them to demonstrate the hypocrisy of their position. But in the more immediate future, making sure like places like Maryland and I know California has done it, but getting places like Maryland to really commit to having safe haven laws. safe haven. So if you come here and to get a medical procedure, our laws will shield you from whatever your state may be doing stupidly. But also, we talk about voting, fuck voting at this point. We need to get elected. We need to make sure that people who are real, people who've come through the trenches are getting elected. People who demonstrate just the same way that these Supreme Court motherfuckers have demonstrated that they were down for whatever, and they weren't even qualified for the fucking job and they were down for whatever. We need to make sure that we put the people who are down for whatever on the other side, because right now we keep getting hit over the fucking head with bricks. And honestly, the brain damage is a lot. I got to be honest. I'm tired of the brain damage.
Exactly.
And
there's all these little things, all of these steps that really should be put into a platform to protect women, because this country does a lousy job of protecting women. And we can make a whole list of what that non-protection of women look like. We could talk about indigenous women who have just disappeared and no one looks for them. We can talk about Black women kidnapped and gone and no one looks for them. We can talk about maternal and infant health. Maternal and infant health, and how as once that baby's born, there's no support. There's none. Well, you brought the baby in the world. Well, I tried not to, but you wouldn't let me. So now help me raise it. Nah, we don't want to give you no food stamps. We don't want to give the fuck. What we doing here? We can talk about a whole list of things. How rapists get off with probation. How what would we like to talk about?
But if a woman retaliates against her rapist or her child sex trafficker, then she gets real prison time, and we all have to garner our global support to get her released. Glad she's out. Now, some of the things, Stacey, I think to your point that Black women or especially women of color can do: staying on top of your health, losing weight, exercising, diet, proper nutrition. Those are all the meditation, therapy. Was it the therapy for Black girls? Taraji P. Henson on the BET Awards, she just said how she's partnering with some others and they're donating so many millions of hours of therapy for people getting therapy. I think that should be mandatory in America. Therapy. Also acupuncture, there are acupuncture points that can assist with elimination from the uterus. Y'all can take that how you want to. When my daughter was in labor, I'm thankful that the hospital allowed me to administer acupuncture to her, and it helped her dilate so that she could push out my grandbaby. I'm trying to say stuff without saying stuff.
Y'all know why you trying. I think you done forgot you was on Titillating Tuesday. What you doing? All polite and shit.
Well, I still have a license to protect.
Oh yeah, but, no, that's true. That's true. I forget. I don't have license.
It helped her expel the contents of her uterus safely and effectively.
So there's a whole list of things that
there are herbs that you can take.
Right.
Natural herbs that you can get a hold to that can help with that. In the Bible, like Stacey was talking about earlier, they used herbs. There were herbs that were used to prevent or eliminate pregnancy. There were herbs that were used to help with pregnancy. I say see a licensed professional, herbalist who has been clinically trained and supervised in a clinical supervised setting, treating patients. Stop going out here with these people who just trying to turn a quick buck, who just post up a page and they just giving you whatever.
Because these herbs will kill you.
Listen, I had to, and it's a shame I even had to tell the person to go to the emergency room. She just wanted to do a cleanse, and she ordered something online because it had a pretty package. She just wanted to cleanse so she could jumpstart her weight loss regimen. The herbs that she was taking, the combination of herbs, oh my God, it was ridiculous, but it created internal bleeding. Thank God she was able, the blood was expelling through her anus, because if it just stayed and collected within her body without expelling, she would have died. And so I was at my godmother's salon and she was telling her about it. And she said, well, the doctor is right here, tell her. And so she showed me what she was taking. And I was like, ooh, do you have cancer? And she was like, no. This shows you the stuff that was in here. Someone just decided to get a whole bunch of stuff, throw it in a package, put it online and sell it. And this woman almost died.
Not taken into, and people don't take into account their own physical health. Some of that stuff is not good if you have certain health conditions.
Exactly.
So
exactly. And a clinically trained professional would have been able to sit and go through her medical history, go through whatever pharmaceuticals her doctor has prescribed to see what contraindications would be in place for her health, her body, the herbs she wanted to take, and the pharmaceuticals that she was already taking. Because just because it's natural don't mean it won't kill you.
Exactly.
And
that's what I always say. It'll naturally kill you.
Effect with the pharmaceutical that you're taking. So please.
So I really want us to make sure that we have, I love marching orders. You know what I mean? I love when we have a list of things that we can do to advance our health. And in this case, I'm sorry, there's a wasp in my house. I'm about to run off this camera. There are things. How did you get in? Damn dog left the door open. There are things that we can do to advance our health. And William's right. Get people elected. You see my eyeballs, because if it comes down, I'm shooting off this camera.
And stop using the period tracker app.
Being here right now.
Stop using period tracker apps, because that could possibly be used against you if you're living in a state that will be tracking your periods and your preg to see if you've missed. That could be possibly used against you in a court of law.
I'm sorry, but
use the old-fashioned way. Just get a calendar.
This kind of goes back to this whole idea that they cannot be. I think one of the biggest things is that we stop trusting them, because they're not operating in good faith, and that we hold our elected officials to not trusting them, because this entire argument, the fact that they're going to use period trackers, the party of small government is going to use your private apps from a private developer to develop criminal charges, like that, anything that they sell small government, you can't believe it. Anything, the amount of money that they want to spend doing all this stupid shit, anything they say about they don't have enough money, you can't believe it. So stop behaving like they're actually fucking trustworthy, like they're operating in good faith. I think
they're talking about arresting drivers. If you drive a woman to an abortion clinic, you could be arrested. The doctors, not just the staff and everything, but if you drive, if you are privy to information and you don't prevent it, I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy that you can report if you suspected that Dr. Ye had an abortion, that you can report it, and all of them. Like, what in the whole world now? And I'm still fertile myrtle, which is why I'm on clink. And I ain't even using tampon. Clink, nothing. No, not clink.
No,
clink. And we're laughing, but it's a very serious matter. Anytime, it's like 1984, like a George Orwell novel, we just immersed in it. And like George Orwell alluded in his book, that Black people are the solution. We have the power if we would just wake up. I encourage everyone to go back and reread 1984 and see how what he talks about people of color and Black people, and how he alludes to us being asleep with the Black woman in the book who's singing and hanging her laundry on the line while all of this stuff is happening around. But contrary to George Orwell, we're not asleep. We're awake. We're very much awake. It's just like you said earlier, Stacey, for us, it's just another Tuesday. We've been fighting this battle for 400 years. But we do have more power than we collectively think that we do. We really do have a lot of power. All we have to do is show up. And stop talking so daggone much. We tell everybody what we're getting ready to do. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. Like, you didn't see a whole lot of them saying, oh, we're going to show up and vote for Trump. But they show stood in them lines.
Cat Williams talks about that all the time.
Yep. Like Cat Williams said.
White people had a secret.
Yeah, like they had a secret. And they did. And they did.
All right. Exactly. Again, we have gotten to
and
the
this is
end
your
of
fault.
the show.
I'm serious as cancer about that one.
It is. It's their fault.
So, yeah, miss me on the we need to get together. Who's we?
Nah, we told you this already.
We gotta save ourselves. Black women, we gotta save
yeah.
ourselves. Because nobody comes to our rescue, but everyone expects us to come to theirs. It's time for us to save ourselves. We can help others along the way, but we have to focus on ourselves.
I think that's a good way to end today. What y'all think?
Yep.
All right. We're going to catch y'all next week with Titillating Tuesday with our Chief Titillating Officer and Dr. Ye and me talking about things. And guess what? We'll be black then too.